It's an orange juice.
What's up everyone, this is OJ. The Night Witch is completely different from the Witch. Her attack is melee, and she spawns babies faster than the original Witch. The Night Witch spawns within a 1.5 tile radius. 2 bats will spawn horizontally every 5 seconds. This is 2.5 seconds faster than the original Witch. With a faster spawn rate, this is more noticeable because she can start accumulating bats pretty fast. Just like the regular Witch, there's no limit to how many she can spawn, provided that she remains alive. When she dies, she will spawn 4 bats in a 2.5 tile radius. This is what makes her unique as a legendary card. The death spawn is incredibly annoying to deal with and really handy on offense or defense. Knowing her bats split into a 360 formation, planting her directly on top of a baby dragon allows her death spawn to avoid the splash damage for a positive elixir trade. If you plant the Night Witch in the back, the bats fly faster than her, but because the bats have the exact same health as skeletons, they'll die in one shot to the tower, so they won't reach it. She has 750 health, so she's grouped into the mid-tier cards like Electro Wizard, Musketeer, Wizard, Witch, Wizard, and so on. Fireball and the Log will kill the Night Witch. But Fireball and Zap will not kill the Night Witch. Alongside the Bandit, they both have 750 health, boasting the highest health out of all the other mid-tier units. At 750 health, she will die to Lightning. If she creeps her way into the meta, Lightning will receive an indirect buff. She's still pretty beefy though, since she can survive one attack from the Big P.E.K.K.A. with 8 bats on the map, that's over 500 damage per second. The only unit in the game that can kill the Night Witch in one blast is Sparky. That being said, even after death, she still counters Sparky for a positive trade. Her attack range is classified as melee, but all units have a slight range depending on their weapon size. Her attack range is 1.85 tiles. This is the exact same reach as the Prince. With this range, she can be planted in between the tower and the bridge to take out units like the Hog that are traveling towards the tower. Each swing deals 285 damage and it has a 1.5 second attack speed. This is pretty much the same as a Mega Minion's attack. They can one-shot archers, dart goblins, and a princess without the assistance of her bats. But if you did include her bats, that's over 400 damage per second, taking out units like the Bomber before they can even exist. Left untouched, she will f your tower. At face value, this seems really scary. But really, a battle ram can also take out a tower. It's not exactly easy to get her to reach the tower with her melee range and her slow move speed. She's pretty useful in both offense and defense. Her really slow move speed works great for building up elixir before she crosses the bridge. Put a giant in front of her, and her bats will support the giant, dealing massive amounts of damage. It creates a problem for your opponent because even if they kill the Night Witch, she'll pop 4 bats to continue supporting that giant. Since she doesn't attack air, she'll have trouble against flying units, but just because she doesn't attack air doesn't mean she can't counter them. The Night Witch herself doesn't attack air, but that's not going to stop her from countering a Lava Hound. Plant her in the back, bank up some bats, and they'll wreck that Hound. She's like a walking tombstone, waddling past the Hound because she gives no fudges. If you want to start off with the Night Witch, there are 2 kinds of placements. If you place her in the very back, her bats will split into both lanes. Splitting comes in handy to protect both lanes, like for absorbing an Ice Spirit if they decide to push the other lane. If you want to dedicate all of your power into a single lane, it's best to stagger her 1 tile away from the center. This way both bats will path into the same lane, useful for if you need to defend this particular lane. There are a lot of interesting interactions with the Night Witch. Despite her attack focused on ground units, 2 bats are enough to stop a single balloon from reaching the tower. Just like the original Witch, cloning her will produce a clone that can spawn bats. Just like the Lava Hound, she pops bats when her clones dies, so this is a nice and direct buff to the clone spell. She's an absolute beast with her bats, already dishing out more damage per second than a Mega Minion. Plus with 4 bats, that's under 600 damage per second. The only drawback is that the Golem's death damage will kill some bats. Another example of her massive DPS is against the Royal Giant. She pretty much replaces the Mini P.E.K.K.A. in terms of defensive capabilities, though her slower move speed isn't as threatening as a Mini P.E.K.K.A. You can kite a Night Witch into the other lane with an Ice Golem for a positive trade, and the bats will die to its Frost Nova. But her Death Bats will still reach that tower for some chip damage. Against the Goblin Barrel, the tower will prioritize the inside goblins, then bottom, then outer goblin. Planting her here shuts down most of the barrel. They only managed to get 2 stabs in. She's pretty versatile in countering almost every card. Placement is going to be incredibly important with her. You could place her near the tower and shut down archers in order to build up elixir. Or you could place her on top of the archers so she can counter push immediately. It really depends on your situation. A basic strategy with Graveyard is to pair it with a tank. She does a pretty decent job of taking care of Graveyard. Bats one-shot the skeletons, while she kind of hovers around the area tanking the tower. She's not an absolute counter for Graveyard though. If your opponent has poison, it one-shots the bats and her death spawns immediately before they even get a chance to defend that skill yard. But let's be real, that's a 13 elixir push. You should have more than a witch and skeletons to defend against that. If you have lane control, planting her at the very center isn't that threatening. She'll only deal around 200 damage to the tower. The placement does change everything. If you plant her one tile lower, the King's Tower won't be targeting her while she's loading, and she'll deal over 600 damage to that tower. It's not exactly threatening, but it's kind of like a Valkyrie. You don't ignore them. The Executioner is going to be the best counter against the Night Witch. Not only does it splash all of her bats, but it destroys her death spawn bats. If you're running an Executioner, you most likely have Tornado in that deck too. If that Night Witch is sent in alone, then you can mitigate most of the damage, and you can activate the King's Tower. With her bats, it's a really interesting combination. Her bats move fairly fast and outpace her. It's possible to use her with a giant beatdown deck to counter Inferno Tower. Placing her beside the tank kind of gives him a bat shield. Another really cool combo is pairing the Witch with the Miner. She's kind of like a 4 elixir Lava Hound. With the Miner, this is a ghetto lava tank push. Once she pops, the Miner tanks for all of the babies. If we start seeing decks composed of this, we're going to need to carry Zap in our decks again. The Night Witch is going to be a very interesting card with high health, unique death spawn mechanic, high damage, really slow move speed, and 4 elixir cost. She's definitely going to have a place in the meta. For the rest of the video, I'll be showing one-on-one interactions on how to counter her and what she can counter.